All right. So my name is Scott Schmidt. I am one of the boot camp pros on Devlin's team. And I actually made the transition to instructional design about a year and a half ago. I went through Devlin's boot camp and I landed a role myself just a few months after I finished. So that was exciting. And now I'm working on Devlin's team. And I had the pleasure of working with Isabella when she was going through the boot camp. So, that's she may share a little bit about that in the interview today too. But, I'm gonna pass it over to you, Isabella, if you would maybe just share a little bit about yourself as an introduction.
Yeah. So thank you, Scott. Hi, everyone. I'm Isabella Hashimoto. So I'm an instructional designer now with a master's degree in teaching and over a decade of experience as an educator. Um, in the beginning of my career, I was really just like a high school English educator, really focusing on the students that were coming in and out of my classes. And honestly, that didn't really change until in one of my positions, like a really seasoned educator who had, like, over a decade more experience than me asked me about, like, how I was able to get my ninth grade, I taught ninth grade for a long time, how to get my ninth graders just, like, actually in a whole class discussion and actually, like, doing it and getting all into it and all that. Anyway, so I was, like, the most junior educator there, and I was always really nervous to share about my ideas, but it turns out all I needed was that boost of confidence or someone seeing my skills, and because I had a lot of ideas about how to update our curriculum to make it more learner-centered, really. And yeah, just opening up that discussion to help us all get better. From there, my ability and my confidence to just be a school leader, just grew, and by the end of my tenure there, I was planning and managing projects across teams affecting over 100 learners annually, and I even had the chance to design a workshop for my colleagues, with in partnership with PBS, great organization. And then now in my most recent role at Seattle Public Schools, I'm the multilingual learner department lead for my building. So in addition to the teaching part of it, I'm also designing and delivering like train the trainer events for my colleagues in the building and through the district. And I've also had the position of teacher leader, which is the official title, where I've developed onboarding stuff like orientations for the incoming people, like new colleagues coming into the building and really focusing on mission and values. Yeah, and it's almost 3 years there now. I've, grown and led a team that is really supportive of my choice to, like, take the next step in my career path, and, I've been very open about instructional design is where I'm going because I've had the time to really reflect on, like, what it is that I wanna do next and what I really enjoy doing, and I've discovered that it's designing trainings and workshops, it's mentoring new folks, educators, and, like, I've done that, and now developing e-learning is something that I've just added to the toolbox of my, ability to convey messages and for, like, to teach people, so that's really what I'm looking for in my next role.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for the introduction, Isabella, and I wanna remind everybody that one of the big reasons we invited Isabella to join us on this event is she has had experienced some really great success landing interviews in a shorter period of time. And we know that that's a big worry point for a lot of people transitioning. How am I going to go about applying and getting interviews? So it's one of the big reasons we invited Isabella, not only because she has proven to be an outstanding instructional designer, but she can share some possibly some tips and some ideas for you folks who may be looking to apply soon or are in that process right now. All right. Well, Isabella, are you ready? Should we get down to it?
Yes, and I wanted to do a little plug. If it wasn't clear, that first little part, like, is definitely a snippet of what I bring to an interview. As that, like, "Tell us about yourself. Walk us through your resume," and all that, so just a sneak peek into that.
Yeah, it was fantastic. They've already gotten some tips and we haven't even started the interview yet.
Always thinking.
All right, fantastic. Okay, so Isabella, my first question for you is this. Let's kind of
Yeah.
start from the beginning here. So before you transitioned to instructional design, I know you kind of mentioned what you were doing, Seattle Public Schools, and in some teacher leader stuff. If you
Mhm.
want to expand a little bit on that more, you certainly can. But can you explain a little bit more how were you feeling during that, during that time and that led up to the transition?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. I have to say I was feeling tired. I was feeling pretty tired because I was doing both, right? Like I was designing the professional development, designing those workshops, facilitating those workshops in person and like through this like webinar situation. Um and also in the classroom all day with students. So, I like to half joke that like the prize for a good job in public education is that, you get more work. So that is kind of where I started getting really tired. And I still honestly truly love like being in the classroom with my high school students. It's a lot of fun. But yeah, I really just wanted to, like, take that next leap, take that leap, and I recently, like, literally a week ago, recently decided to take a career break to reflect on, like, what I wanna do and what this is, obviously, is instructional design. I've been in a boot camp since last fall, but yeah, I wanna focus more on the adult learning side of things because I really enjoyed that in the last few years that I've been working and, doing the workshops and designing professional development, and now learning the fun of e-learning, honestly, like Storyline. What a gem. It's a good time. So, I'm just excited.
Yeah.
I'm feeling excited now as opposed to tired. So that's always a one.
Absolutely. That's kind of the way it was for me too. I was really burnt out and I got really excited when I started doing the transition. So, I know you mentioned that, you were really looking to maybe get more into adult learning and you got excited about learning how to do e-learning development. I'm wondering if there was
Mhm.
anything else that intrigued you about instructional design that made you choose that
Mm.
as as the area you wanted to go into after teaching.
That is such a good question because, actually in conversation with someone that's in here, I don't wanna name names. Like, we both actually discovered instructional design in, like, 2020, 2021. Obviously, I stayed in the classroom, but anywho, I found it as, like, just Googling, "What is a job after teaching?" And I saw that, and I also unfortunately, well, it's okay. I saw project management also, and so I chose to take a class in project management. I'm like, "Oh, this instructional design thing, it's a little too close to teaching," or something. I don't know, whatever I thought in 2020, 2021. Um, and I heavily disliked I think it was, like, to get ready for the certification course, the PMP, and I was like, "No, this isn't it, this isn't it." So I went back into the classroom, which is great, actually, now in hindsight, that's when I got a lot of, like, the big leadership stuff of, like, designing, professional development, all that. Anywho, um, so why instructional design now, why I picked it up again is because I really see it now that I've actually had the time to look at it, read some great books, throw some books in the at the end there. I mean, we've all read them. Anyway, uh, I really see instructional design now as not just creating courses. Like I kind of thought that in the beginning, but now it's really like someone who collaborates across teams to like solve big organizational problems and really just exploring different training solutions and seeing what fits. Like I like that part of it. And that's what's really keeping me going and definitely focused my job search a lot more as well. Like finding the ones that's pretty much speak to that a little bit more than others, than other posting.
All right, fantastic. So, um, we now know where you were at. We know what intrigued you about moving into ID. So now give us a little bit of a rundown of your timeline. When you
Mm.
decided this is what I'm going to do from that point till now, tell us just a little bit about what that process looked like and how you felt about that during that journey.
Yeah, that's a good one. I decided maybe like last October. So again, I did the Google of like, what job after after teaching? And yeah, that's when ID popped up again. And I was like, you know what? I think like Coursera was having a sale or something. I'm like, I'll just take one intro course to see what this is all about. And that's when I really did learn about like the whole like ID as problem solver. And that got me. That really got me as someone who likes to do that, of course. So I then was kind of just going on YouTube videos of like, what is instructional design? And that there's a lot of content out there. And I realized quickly that for my brain, there was too much content. Like I would just have like my energy would have gone everywhere and just not focused very much. So that's when I'm certain it was through a YouTube video that I found Devlin. I'm sure, of course it was, that I found Devlin's content, and I then saw that there was a boot camp. So I was like, okay. So it wasn't what was it? November. It was last November. I know it was Veterans Day weekend because as a public educator, I'm like gotta memorize every single like 3-day weekend, every like snippet of extra time. So anyway, that's when I started the boot camp. So I don't remember when I applied for it. Maybe it was just a couple weeks beforehand. Because I knew that I needed structure. I needed a checklist as someone who like, I don't know, organization is my love language. So I just needed.
You bet. Well, thank you for being a part of it too. We've definitely enjoyed working with you these last few months. So, okay. Well, this let's get now to the part where I'm sure this is what
Oh
was
yeah.
advertised for this event. Let's talk interviewing so
Yes.
that people can learn from your experience because you've had some good experience getting landing some interviews. So, the first thing um I just want to ask is what do you think has helped you get land interviews in such a short amount of time? What things do you feel like you did, actions
Mhm.
that you took? There is definitely certainly a bit of luck, obviously, in there involved,
Of
but
course.
there's a lot of things that you can actively do to land those interviews. So I'm curious, what do you think it is for you that you did that you think helped you land so many interviews in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, I you kind of just said it already. It's the things that you can control, right? And because everything else, the luck involved, the who knows what's happening outside, right? But you can only, or I can only control really my portfolio. I can control my resume, and I can control, I don't know, who sees them, I guess, and deciding like who I want to approach with that. So that's definitely been a part of it. I think I spoke to it a little bit earlier too about, and this has only been in the last couple of weeks, honestly, like pinpointing what is it about instructional design that I do really enjoy. I enjoy like the breadth of training solutions, and like the learning solutions that you can do, and not just one thing, right? Not just the workshops or, facilitations that like, that's great. It's not just even e-learning because like that's also a great part. I'm looking for something that is on that like instructional design, learning experience designer avenue, path, whatever word we're going with. Um, and so just pinpointing that as well, that I'm not just kind of like throwing my throwing my resume everywhere, which like no shame in that either, to be honest. I was doing that earlier and I was taking phone interviews for positions that I don't know, didn't exactly want necessarily, but it was all practice. So I kind of just see it as that, like that's something I can control too. My time. Like I say yes to phone interviews for places that again, I'm not 100% sure what you do, but I will talk to you because it is practice about how to talk about myself and my experiences. Um, so that's it. Yeah. Like really owning what you can control. There's definitely been a recruiter or two who have talked about my portfolio. So that's been nice. Um, just how, like, easy it is to navigate and, like, really clear was those are the 2 things that I would say were highlights that I can recall.
Fantastic. Well, you just gave me a great segue into the next question because you talked about your portfolio, which is always a key part of the application and even the interview process, because many hiring managers are going to look at your portfolio and possibly bring some of that stuff up in the interview. So, my question for you is, are you noticing hiring managers bringing up specific things about your portfolio? Or also, in addition to just the portfolio, things about your experience, the flagship project that
Mhm.
you created? Are you noticing any trends of things that hiring managers are bringing up in those interviews?
Yeah. I would say definitely what I was saying earlier about like, because recruiters are usually the first line, right? To see if you're going to be someone that they want to bring into a next round or something. And they definitely see that. And I think, again, making it easy to navigate, clear, understandable for a recruiter's perspective who might not necessarily have experience in the ID world, in learning and learning experience and all that stuff. Just making it something that is accessible in that way is really important, I would say. As far as like what hiring managers do ask when you get into like the second round, third round, fourth round, even, definitely that question of like walking through that design process, especially for e-learning, of course, like using that flagship project as my guide. The write up really as my guide for it because that was so detailed in its way of really outlining how did I come up with it? What did I do? What were the actionable steps? What did I learn? And all of that. So, definitely the flagship project being there as and having the longest write up and like reasoning behind it has definitely come up. Um, yeah, yeah, say that.
All right. Fantastic. So, my next question, I'm gonna kind of tie this back into your boot camp
Oh,
experience
yes,
now
yes.
too. Which I am very familiar with your boot camp experience because I worked so closely with you, and it was so fantastic. But if you would, can you pinpoint any specific skills or
Mhm.
lessons that you learned from the boot camp, that you're noticing are coming up in interviews that really helped prepare you for those interviews?
Yeah, definitely. So, in addition to like walk us through your design process, right? Because that will come up for sure. Especially if you're applying to positions that e-learning is a big focus. Like, yes, talk about your flagship project all day. Well, not really, but you know what I mean. Bring it up. The next one that has definitely come up as well is like, how do I collaborate with others? How have I have like the iterative process and like that's come up in interviews and I can speak to that honestly about, in this case, the journey through the boot camp, right? So like working with you, Scott, working with Sabrina, I've definitely asked questions of her too. And working
Yeah.
with like my peers in the boot camp as well, right? So I will say specifically, I had a very cool interview where they put up a storyline project. They share their screen and we went slide by slide about like what feedback I would suggest. So quite literally exactly like what the boot camp workshops are like. And I didn't tell you, but I definitely said the word padding twice. I was like, "Oh, yeah, there's" so again, just like that's really specific stuff that I learned in the boot camp that have come up in interviews for sure.
Fantastic. All right, let's shift gears just a little bit here. Because I've already noticed in the chat, a lot of people sharing their LinkedIn profiles, for people to connect and everything like that. So
Yes.
I'm wondering, as has how has networking, especially through LinkedIn, which is a
Mhm.
big, easy way for people to do that, how has that helped you in securing interviews, would you say?
Um, as far as securing interviews, I mean, I've definitely done the like apply to a place and then find the recruiter for it and send them a message. Sometimes I don't hear back necessarily from the recruiter, but then I'll get like a, "Oh, you are being scheduled for a phone." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So someone has read it potentially. That's definitely been part of it. I'd say that what's helped on LinkedIn is getting that like supportive community when I'm in the interview process. So, for instance, like I have an interview tomorrow actually that I have to do a little bit
Wow.
of a presentation. Um, Facilitate a presentation. No, what is it? Yeah, facilitate like a leadership skill micro training. That's what they call it, micro training. And I've like through networking on LinkedIn found people who are in the L&D space and ID space who have been like willing to mentor me also. Like it's just so nice. And I've like dropped the presentation in there and it's like, if there's any notes you have or whatnot, and maybe even like listen to me go over it. So, anywho, like that's been really great when it comes to the networking as well. Because I'm again, like it's that big thing of like what you can control. I can control that. I can control who I'm contacting and how I approach them. And it's not necessarily like, hi, do you have a job for me? Because that's just not how I operate personally. But it's a like real back and forth kind of like relationship where I'm asking for help. They might ask me every once in a while for like, what have you done for something like this? But yeah, I think that's been nice. I have to say as someone who like has no real other social media than LinkedIn, it can be a little overwhelming, but like again, you can control that. Or I'm trying. This is me talking to myself. You can control that. You can step away if you need to.
Right. Yeah, it was a big leap for me, I remember, to dive into the LinkedIn world. So, but
Yeah.
that yeah, you're right, the connections you can make can be invaluable for a variety of
Mhm.
reasons, you know? So, all right. I have 2 final questions for you before, we hand it over to a Q and A session with the people here. So, folks, if you still have questions, feel free to continue to add those. We're gonna get to that here in just a few minutes. I have 2 final questions for you. My first one is, can you share any, um, highlights or stories from your interviews? You've had so many in such a short amount of time, and probably they've varied quite a bit. I'm wondering if there's things you can I see what you're doing there.
Good
I'm sure
thinking.
we're always curious, well, how did that interview go? What are you noticing,
Yeah.
is happening? So if you have any stories, even what questions show up the most, what have been the most
Yeah.
difficult questions, anything like that. Just really, really let us kind of be flies on the wall in your interview process that you've had so far.
No, no, that is good. I thought I had something. Yes, I've had a lot of different kinds of interviews for sure. I've already spoken about the biggest highlight of the one that was just like they shared a screen, and I was like, oh, that's not accessible. And that wouldn't have passed the WCAG anyway. So that was cool. There was one interview where um, they gave me all the questions the day before, and I was like and actually, personally, I don't think it turned out as well as I thought it was going to because it felt so, like, not conversational, and I think that's definitely a big one where a lot of interviewers will say at the beginning, like, "We just want this to be a conversation," and more often than not, they do just want it to be a conversation, so, like, just go with it is what I tell myself. Um, Questions about accessibility have definitely come up a lot. So when I was talking about that, like how to make the slides, what feedback would I give? So accessibility is huge. Um, so making sure that that was something that I brushed up on and learned about. Like definitely watched the YouTube video or two, and you know just found other like websites that help you test accessibility, etc. Let's see. What's another question that comes up a lot? So I talked about the collaboration one. Oh, one that was is really nice, and I think it's because we're in this field of like learning and training and development. Is like how have I continued my learning? So I think this boot camp definitely like slides right into that as like, yeah, I was doing this for years and now I'm moving into something else. So, like that's always nice and it's like a tangible thing that I can talk about. And because of all this, like learning that I've done, this portfolio came out. And so I can, talk about that as well. Let's see, what's another oh, and another one is building, relationships between teams or, like, subject matter experts. That comes up a lot as well. I think it depends on the organization, what they say, but yeah, subject matter expert, uh, cross-functional team. Yeah. I'm sure there's another way that it's said too. But like, how do you work with those folks and streamline content and streamline the learning? Yes. That's good.
That's great that you're giving us some of that jargon too that you come across. That's very, very helpful too. Because somebody, if they got into an interview and was like cross-functional teams, what the heck does that mean?
No,
Well, Isabella
definitely.
just helped you out there. So definitely appreciate that. So, all right, one final question before the Q&A to kind of
Yes.
wrap up everything. This is where you really get to share some real nuggets of wisdom with everybody. So, now that you've had so much interviewing experience,
Yeah.
what tips would you give everybody here who may be going through that process in the future or maybe already is in that process? What do you think is the best pieces of advice that you would give them?
Yeah. A lot of this is advice that I've received and like kind of, you know, worked in and made work for me. So I think definitely pinpointing like the 7, the 8, I mean, I'm just making up numbers really, like skills and experiences that you want to highlight that you've done already. And honestly, like, those are the things that you wanna make sure make it into the interviews. So each of those skills can become its own story, right? I mean, the STAR method, you can STAR method each one of those, and then I was gonna say I've mentally tagged, no, I've written them all on Google Docs, and they're all tagged about, like, what are the different, um, topics they could cover. So, like, for example, like I have a train the trainer event that I did. It was a professional development. Even that, just calling it a train the trainer event, I've had to like train my brain to say that. And I can use that story for like my initiative and like my bias towards action, adult learning, trainer led learning experience, measuring effectiveness. Like any of those questions come up, I can talk about that one story. So again, like really pinpointing what is it that I want to bring in to the interview, and then how can I display it as opposed to going the opposite way, which is like looking at a bunch of interview questions and then answering them specifically. I like the idea of going from again, what you can control, what you can bring to the table. And that goes also with like when you pinpoint those, when I've pinpointed the skills and experiences that I want to highlight and that I want to lean into. Again, that's, like, the jobs that I'm gonna be looking for more often than not, yeah, like, putting in more effort on those job applications, like, the tweaking of the resume, which I haven't even talked about that, sorry. Tweaking the resume for the jobs that I'm, like, more interested in, to be honest, and being like, "Okay, there we go. I put in the time. I took some of the words from the job description and tweaked them to fit into my resume." So, for instance, like, my resume has subject matter expert in it, didn't have anything that said that in the job description, but it said cross-functional teams. So, boop, I'll just, like, kinda reword it a little bit so that it goes into my resume that I'm submitting. Um, Another one is definitely, like, the mindset shift of just, like, the interview is not there for you to, like for me to convince the hiring panel that, 1, I'm an instructional designer and that 2, like, I'm the best one for this job or yeah, whatever other way to do it because that, like, actually made me really nervous. Um, and the advice that I've received is, like, you just need to show up as your own professional, competent self. You bring in your own stories, you get to talk about your experience. And if that's what they're looking for, then there we go. And if honestly, like, a hiring panel, a hiring manager would not be inviting you to an interview if they didn't think you could do it. So they're not gonna spend time. So that's something I have had to learn. I was definitely, like, battling a lot of imposter syndrome at the very, very beginning, getting those phone screening stuff. So yeah, and then the last one is I have the questions at the end. They're like, "Oh, do you have any questions for us?" I always ask, like, "What does success look like for this role in?" You can even give a time constraint, like 30, 60, 90 days. And then I like write it down while I'm listening. And if there's anything that comes up that I have experience with, I'll be like, yeah, thank you for sharing. Like I've actually, in my experience, I've built uh onboarding for new, and then I can kind of talk a little bit more about my experiences and, bring value to them, to organization in a real way. Yeah.
No,
Sure
that's
there's
great.
more.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing those tidbits. As somebody who's gone through it very, very recently, you bring a lot of credibility to this area and can really shed some light on that. I'll just expand on one thing. I typically go into interviews exactly the way that you just described. I'm like, this is me. This is who I am. If I try to put on a show, it's going to come off as ingenuine,
Mhm.
and you put it so perfectly. If I'm who they're looking for, then they'll hire me. If I'm not, it's not because I'm not good. I'm not qualified. It may just be that somebody else was a better fit for whatever reason. But I really, really like that you said you just got to be your authentic self, basically. Because
Mhm.
if you don't, it's probably gonna show.
Right, I
So
know, and then, like, potentially, what if you get that job and you're like, "Mm, that's not me at all, actually, you just hired a fake me." Or on the flip side too, like, you don't get the position and you didn't even bring your own self, like, you never know what would happen, so if you were your genuine self in that, so just a mindset shift that I've had to make, definitely.
absolutely. So, all right. Well, again, thank you so much for that. We're going to get to some questions now, Isabella. So, we're going to start off. Chrissy asked a question that was, how would somebody go about translating their educational skills to ID skills during an interview? How do you make that? Well, I'm sure we got a lot of teachers here. And so that's one of the biggest things is, wait, how do I make it sound like I'm not a teacher and I'm an instructional designer? What would you say?
Yeah, that's a great question. I have to say, like, in my what is it? The, like, "Tell us about yourself," question at the very beginning, like, I'll own it. I mean, they've seen my resume, like, they know that I've been a teacher. So I think just addressing it right then in the beginning as if I was gonna say as if it's nothing to hide, right? Like, "Yeah, I've been an educator for over a decade and da 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 da." So addressing it for sure because yeah, it made make me feel more comfortable for sure. And then definitely picking and choosing. Sorry, I'm looking at my these are the notes that I have. Bringing in notes is really helpful too, to be honest. Having notes because like Scott, you were saying earlier too, like the jargon, right? I mean, I want to make sure that I'm saying the things, right? So for instance, I talk about like a big project that I had with over 100 learners, so learners, not students, which, yeah, it's a little bit of a tweak, right? Learners, annually, which is another like corporate speak. Just one little I learned very recently that I would say project milestones instead of project like checkpoints is kind of just what I was using as a teacher. But like milestones. Ah, okay. So definitely the jargon is I don't say it's like it's huge, but it helps to feel more comfortable using it. And even just the skills in general, like knowing that, we've as educators crafted learning objectives. We've done backwards design too. Like that's something that I've talked about a lot that receives like, because yeah, I mean, it's exactly the same as what learning and development with instructional designers are doing at least, the ones that I've talked to. Um, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that helps at all, but just owning the fact that your skills are transferable. And then I think there's a is it a document through the boot camp that there is like a glossary of ID terms? Is there? I swear there is one. Maybe it was just floating around in the community. But I'll look for it. I'll look for it and I'll post it in the community because I know I have one. I know I've seen it. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah. So I think that that's huge.
Yeah. I really appreciate that you let people know that, if you are a teacher, you already have transferable skills. You do. Even if you don't feel like you do, you do. Just because you work with students,
Mhm.
youth and not adults doesn't mean some of that doesn't translate. So, definitely very good. Thank you I'm really glad you touched on that because hopefully that's going to make some of the teachers here maybe feel a little bit more confident about their transition. So,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right. Okay.
definitely.
EJ asks, I'm wondering if you'd like to talk a bit about mental health as it relates to the
Ooh.
transition to the ID world. It can be overwhelming at times. And I'm wondering if you could talk a bit about how you balance that and the job search itself.
EJ, hi. So EJ is a buddy I've met through the boot camp, and we're actually like, I don't say neighbors. We're like 40 minutes away from each other. And so we've talked about this a lot actually. And I'd say there are a couple things that are coming to mind. Okay. So definitely building that support system outside of the ID world and even inside it as well. Like I've talked a lot, I think, about the folks that I connect with on LinkedIn, the folks I've connected with in the boot camp itself as well. To just like be there with you on the journey because no one I don't say no one understands it but us. But you know what I mean? Like it's nice when you have someone who's going through the same process as you to talk about like, oh my gosh, this is like the 6th time I've had to do my prototype or something, and just having someone, um, be there to help you out through that. And now I'm talking about, like, the transition to the ideal world of, like, the applications and the interviewing and that whole process as well, is, like, giving myself time to take breaks also and, like, go outside. I could just be in this room on the computer, like, writing and rewriting and revamping and redoing, like, my portfolio, my LinkedIn post. Like, I can tweak that forever. Um, but just, like, giving myself the grace to take a break every once in a while. I was gonna say a lot, but no, every once in a while, whenever however often you need it, giving yourself a break because like, I've done that already. I've been really tired already. Like, I wanna keep that excitement going, the joy of it, the joy of the learning and the discovering. Uh, so I think both of those things have definitely helped keep my head straight.
Yeah, great. It's a really important question and thing to address because the job hunt process is a grind.
Yeah.
And both physically and mentally, it really is physically draining to do that. So, yeah, that was a great question, and definitely thank you for addressing that. So, um, part of what makes the job hunt really daunting is that there's seems like there's just millions of applicants for every job. So, um, Irina asked, the numbers of applicants are really high right now. How do you stand out to land an interview? All right. And then for Isabella, for you in particular, I'm wondering if you've noticed
Mhm.
any particular types of jobs that have high applicants or not as many? Which have you had better
Mhm.
success with? So maybe a two-part question there. So again, Isabella, how do
Mhm.
you stand out to land an interview? And then
Mhm.
what's been your experience as you've been going through the job hunt in terms of what's giving you the most success? Have you had a success landing interviews with
Okay.
postings that have a lot of applicants or fewer?
It's been a pretty mixed, to be honest. So, I'd say the things that again, right? Things I can control, use my resume. And more often, the jobs where I take some time in the application and actually, again, look through that job description and look at my resume and see where I can just kind of input some of the words that are in the job description that I have experience with. It's not like making things up like that's not it. It's just, oh, okay, I can tweak the wording of my resume to say that I've done like onboarding instead of orientation or like, depending on whatever the job description says. Um, I'd say two, let me see what else there. I have had success in both like, let me see, how am I going to answer? Personally want a hybrid job. Personally, I would like to go into the office, into an office a couple of times a week, see people in real life. Um, I have had some, like, success with those. I don't even say a little bit more because I've definitely gotten some for, like, fully remote jobs as well, but it's definitely, I would say because of the fact that those are the jobs where I took the time. Like, I know that LinkedIn has that easy applied button, and then there's, like, 1,000 people who applied. Like, I'll do those just because, like, why not? I just click one button, I guess, and then, I've applied. I don't think it's, like, a terrible thing. I don't know my success rate on it, though, I would say. I haven't really looked at that, but it was more of just like a shot in the dark, let's see how it goes. Um, but yeah, I would say the ones, and I said it again and again and again, but like the ones that I actually took the time to read through that job description, see how it fits to my resume and apply from there. But definitely like the fully remote jobs, I'd say once getting into the interview process, like I was on like round 3, yeah, like that's a lot of rounds because I mean, you see the numbers, like they have a lot of people to want it. So yeah, it, it is a lot.
It is. It definitely is. Well, let's kind of stick somewhat along those same lines. We got a
Mhm.
lot of applicants, right? One of the things that, and we've talked about this before, we're going to come back to the portfolio a little bit here,
Mm,
Isabella. What that portfolio can really help in helping you maybe get past that first barrier and get a call for even a
mhm.
screener interview. So Colleen asks, what do you specifically do to make your portfolio clear and understandable for recruiters who may not have experience with ID? Maybe you learned something in the boot camp about that. I don't know. Maybe. If you
Did
want to
someone
share
help me with
something
my
about
write
that, that's great too.
I believe someone helped me with my write-up and actually took out or suggested to take out because you don't delete things. Suggested to take out some of the, like, really specific, um, ID verbiage that was in there and honestly just, like, made it a little bit clunkier. So I'm sorry, I'm talking about the write-up specifically for my flagship project. Because I was like, "This is the time I need to prove I know ID." So I was just, like, throwing in everything, right? All the terms. But Scott, thank you for looking through that and really just parsing out, like, "Okay, yeah, okay, Kirkpatrick's gonna stay," because, that's, like, a pretty general thing, but you don't need to get into every single detail of what you did. Just kind of like a general overview. So that was for the write-up for sure. For the other projects in my portfolio, I did not do like full write-ups like the flagship. I just tried to make it as simple as possible, like problem, solution, problem, solution, what I used. Like that's it. So that it's something that's like easy to read over for a recruiter, and even a hiring manager to really just see, oh, okay, I see that now. It's quick and easy to read is kind of my whole idea behind that. And then as far as understandable as well, just keeping the blurbs short, the ones about myself, even in the very beginning, short and sweet. That definitely like I brought my website to the workshops a couple weeks because I was like, I don't know. This like this is not my bag. Like, what am I doing here? And so that was a really great one to bring to the workshop because it just had like more eyes to look at it. And we all have looked at websites before. So like that was a really good way to get people's opinions and feedback. Like, "Oh, that button, maybe," just tweaking it here and there for, like, the user experience of it all.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed seeing the evolution of your portfolio website because And everybody, we've still got the link on there. You everybody can go check out Isabella's wonderful portfolio. But I will say, Isabella was very creative even from the very beginning. But sometimes you got to really kind of rein it in to keep it really focused because that hiring manager is not going to spend a lot of time there. And that's really mostly kind of, I remember what we focused on. And it really did turn out great. And it was, all of Isabella's work there. I definitely gave you some suggestions, but you took it and ran with it and made a really standout portfolio. So very good. Everybody go check it out. It's really awesome. So all
Appreciate
right,
it.
we're gonna end with one final question. All right. I think this is a good one too. So Maria asks, how do you deal with questions about specific situations if you haven't ever encountered them before? Are you supposed to just make up something or what do you do?
Ooh, what a good question. So I will show you because, for instance, like I'll give you an example right now. And that's kind of what it is. Like you give an example of a thing that I have done. So
Yeah.
I've gotten questions about specific LMSs. Like, have you used Bridge LMS? Or I don't even know if that's the name of it. Let's just say it's that. And I will say, like, you know what? I actually haven't used that LMS before. I do have experience with the LMS, and I've actually even designed onboarding experiences for new folks in new colleagues to get acquainted with it and make it accessible for everyone. But yeah, I again don't have experience with that LMS. I with the Bridge LMS, I have learned many other software. Like you can kind of work it in a way, if that makes sense. Um, because yeah, I mean, you got to be honest, and at the same time, like something else that can be tagged in that way. If that I don't know if that helps at all. I'm trying to think of, like, another kind of question where I don't necessarily have experience in that, but here you go. Oh, I know. I got one about customer service. Like, yeah, what one was last yeah, what is your experience with customer service? And I said that, in high school, I worked at a restaurant. In college, I worked at a grocery store. Um, Absolutely, the skills that I learned there, I brought into education with like my ability to multitask. And then I talked about multitasking. So that's, hopefully something that gives you an idea of just, like we have a lot of experience, a breadth of experience, and it's about bridging it to there. And that's, I hope, helpful. Yeah.
No, Isabella, you're absolutely right. I think what I just took away from what you just said is you can, even if you don't have direct experience with that thing, you
Hmm.
can you can say, but I do have this experience that's similar to
Hmm.
show I can do that if you'd like
Right.
me to do that. So yeah, absolutely. Very helpful. So all right, we are coming up at the end of the hours here, so we're going to start wrapping this up. So first of all, I want to thank all of you who joined us today. Thank you very much for being here. I hope you got some good information about the interview process from somebody who's been through it very recently. Of course, Isabella, thank you. I have really enjoyed this, especially because you folks may not know this yet, but I had not actually really had a conversation with Isabella yet even though I worked with her
Yeah.
directly in the boot camp. This is our first time really interacting, so it's been a
Yeah.
delightful experience for me too,
Yeah.
so,
We did great.
yeah. Yeah, and then you got a link to Isabella's portfolio. Definitely go find her on LinkedIn. I think it just popped up on the screen there
Oh,
for you.
yeah.
Um,
Please, please.
her LinkedIn is blowing up. She's putting a lot of great content out there, folks. Go look at it because obviously I'm
Oh, thank
connected with
you.
Isabella. So I get these notifications. Isabella posted this, Isabella posted this, and it's all great stuff. So
Awesome.
definitely go check that out. So I also want to announce that we are accepting applications starting today for the summer cohort of Devlin Peck's boot camp. So if you want to be like Isabella and you want to join the boot camp and receive the highly personalized feedback and guidance on that transition process that can really help set you up for success. If you want to maybe look into that as well and take part, feel free to apply now. You will be taken after the event ends, you will be taken immediately to the boot camp page where you can check that out, and there will be an option to apply. I will say though that seats are limited, so you're going to want to get on that right away if you're interested. Seats will or applications will be only open until May 31st. Okay, so just about a week from today. All right. And again, you'll be taken directly to that boot camp page as soon as the event ends, and you can learn more about it there. So, but otherwise, keep working on that transition and stay tuned for more free content on the YouTube channel. Devlin's got a lot of great contributors now adding to the YouTube content. So check that out. And that can help you with your interview process as well. So once again, Isabella, thank you so much for joining us. I will be really looking forward to hearing updates on your experience with your interviews and the job hunt. So, do you have any final words for the audience here?
Honestly, just
Did I just put you on the
you
spot?
on just do you. You know, on it again, what you can control, what you can do, be you. That's how we have to show up with these things. So thank you. Thanks, Kat.
Awesome, great. Thank you, Isabella, and thank you again to everybody that joined us. So we'll go ahead and sign off for now. Thank you, everybody. Bye bye.